we're over here in Exodus, and we are in Exodus, and we're in chapter 8. We're talking about the flies, which we were right at being done with the flies. And I wanted to go down here again to verse 20, I guess 28, where it says, "So Pharaoh said, I will let you go that you may sacrifice, but what I need you to do, just intercede for me," right? What were we talking about that? What relevance did that have to us that we were talking about last week? What did he want done? What did he want done?
Something in return.
Something in return, okay. He wanted intercession so that what would happen? The flies would be removed, right? In other words, he wanted the consequences to stop. Right? I don't want the consequences. I'll let you do whatever you want to do. Just intercede for me and take these flies out of here, right? And that's kind of the same thing that we do with the Lord, right? As far as, Lord, I'll serve you. I'll do this. I'll do that. I just don't want these consequences anymore. I don't want to have to deal with this. And we're making vows to God that we're not keeping, right? That's all of us, right? I mean, we're making these vows to God. And I just wanted to talk about just a little bit more. What about the consequences? What did we say? How are consequences good? Are consequences good
Yes.
in our life?
Yes.
Yeah, they're good in our life. They're they're necessary in our life. Why are they necessary?
You learn from that.
Teach you that we learn from them. Do we want to get out of consequences, and do we want to get out of discipline?
Yes.
And do we live in a society that everybody gets out of everything?
Yes.
Right? The parents try to shield the kids, the spouses try to shield their spouses, we try to shield everybody, right? And does that work out well for us? Look at the society that we're in, right? And look at, because we've had to deal with no consequences, right? And I just want to go back over here and the bottom of, and this is Hebrews 12, and this is not on the board because this is just a recap, right? This is not on the board. So Hebrews 12, and let's look at this. It says, and I just want to go down to verse 11. Now no chastening. Right? This is talking about chastening. This is talking about the discipline of God, right? No chastening seems to be joyful for the present, but painful. Do we agree with that? What is the difference between joy and happiness? What is the difference between joy and happiness? Doesn't seem to be joyful to us when we have consequences, but it's painful, right? Happiness is based on what my circumstances are, what's going on in my life, right? Joy is based on what is inside of me. What is the outcome going to be? Right? And it's saying, look, it doesn't seem like it's going to be joyful at the present, but it's going to be painful. Does it hurt to be chastened or disciplined? Yeah, it does. It's like you talk about, I was thinking about, you have a dog that steps on a thorn, right? In their foot, and they can't walk around on it. It hurts. As I grab their foot and I try to pull that thorn out, what are they doing to you? Trying to bite you, because it's painful, right? But they don't realize that thing that's in there is causing them more pain. And when you take that out, they can actually walk on that foot, and they can actually do something with it. And it says that it's joyful at the present, but painful. Nevertheless, afterwards, it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness. Right? What is the consequence, or what is the result of consequences and discipline? Resulting in what? The peaceable fruit of righteousness. Why do we go through the things that we go through? Because to get better, right? Are any of us righteous? I was talking to Eric yesterday, and he said, it took him a long time to figure out that we will never be righteous. We will never be, complete, right? But as we go through the circumstances, as we go through consequences, as we go through discipline, as we are coming closer to being more righteous, which is Christ-like. Right? And that's why we go through the things. That's why we need to allow ourselves to feel the pain, to feel the struggle, to feel the thing. Because I know that as I look around, we're all in the struggle, are we not? Is anybody not in the struggle? It's tough, right? But am I growing through the struggle? And it says, to the peaceable fruit of righteousness, to those who have been what? Trained by it. What does it mean to be trained by it?
Learn from your mistakes.
Are we learning from it? Is Pharaoh learning from his mistakes? As we've gone on, right? He's like, man, you're just not getting it, Pharaoh. You're just not getting it. I'm gonna have to put it on you harder. And I want you to understand this and hear me well. And I've said this before, as we have things that go on in our lives, as we are being disciplined by God, he is trying to teach us something for his righteousness. so we can become more righteous, right? But we've got to be trained by it. If we are not trained by it, what happens? Tell me what happens when I'm not trained. What happens when Pharaoh is not trained by his stuff that he's doing, and he's not learning, and he's not changing, and he keeps hardening his heart? Repetition, but it repeats. But what is it? How does it repeat? It gets worse. I'm telling you, the Lord is going to tell you that, look, man, I'm giving you a chance, Chad. Okay, I told you to stop doing this. So here's a warning, right? Just like a police officer that says, look, I'm going to give you a chance to just back away and just leave and shut your mouth. Right? This has never happened to me. Never happened to me. Back away and just shut your mouth and walk away. And you turn around and let me, and I'm gonna tell you, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, man, you're on the ground, right? You're shackled up, and he's like, not me, but you. And then I'm just telling you, right? That is what we've got to, you see that on TV. You've got to be trained by the things. There's a reason for going through the things we go through. Okay. We do not get it quickly. And that's why we struggle so much with it. That's why I struggle so much with it, because I just don't get it. And I'm like, Lord, slow learning. Yeah, absolutely. And like Pastor Smith says, we do everything we can to get around it. Man, I don't want to go through this. I don't want to, I want to get around this thing. But he's saying, look, the only way you're going to get more righteous, the only way you're going to progress, the only way your faith is going to get better is if you go through this mud and you learn from it, right? We've got to do it. Now look up here in this is 12, the same Hebrews 12. And I want to look at, let's just go with verse 1. And I'm just going to read through this and we're going to talk about it just for a second. We'll move on. Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. Okay? Who for the joy that was set before him did what? He endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Look, did Jesus, and this is tough, man. Did he try to get around it? Did he try to get around the cross? Did he want to go through that? Because what did he pray? What did he pray in the garden? Father, if there's any way possible, take this cup away from me. I don't want to go through this, but you know what? I will go through it because I know, and he says the joy that was set before him. What was set before him? It wasn't the cross. It wasn't the crucifixion. It wasn't the humiliation. It wasn't all that stuff. What was set before him was, look, it says that he sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. He saw beyond the cross. He saw sitting down at the right hand of God doing what? Now that he made it through that and didn't go around it, what option has he given us? What option has he given us? Salvation. He sits up there now and says, look, I am the way to salvation. I've already gone through this thing for you. You don't have to go through it again. I'm the one that is interceding for you. I'm the one that looks down when you're being such a knucklehead. And I'm the one that turns to God and says, Father, I know Chad is the biggest knucklehead out there, man. Forgive him. Yeah. Give him a break, man. Just on my behalf, give him a break. Yes.
I feel like I hear in there too. Don't be tempted by sin, but endure for joy.
Yeah, don't be tempted by sin. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. 1 Peter 4:12. And this says, 1 Peter 4:12, beloved, do not think. Now, this is, you got to think about it, thinking about the circumstances, the consequences, the discipline. Do not think it's strange concerning the fiery trial, which is to try you. Right? Are we all going to go through it?
Yes.
Don't think it's strange. Don't say, because what's the first thing that I do with God? What do I say to him? Why me, Lord? Why are you putting me through this, man? Am I not serving you? Am I not giving? Am I not? And this is talking about doing when you're doing what is right. This is not talking about disciplining because you're doing wrong. This is talking about being persecuted for the cause of Christ. Lord, I'm giving, I'm serving, I'm doing. Why am I going through this stuff? And he said, look, Chad, don't think it's strange concerning the fiery trial, which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened to you. Rejoice to the extent that you partake of Christ's sufferings, that when his glory is revealed, you may also be glad with exceeding joy. If you're reproached for the name of Christ, blessed are you. Right? I mean, that's good, man. I need to take that. It says, but if you get down to verse 15, but let none of you suffer as a murderer, a thief, or evildoer, or busybody in other people's matters. Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in this matter. They're saying, look, I don't want you to suffer because you're being a knucklehead. I don't want you to suffer because you're out there running your mouth and doing things you shouldn't be doing. That suffering is because you've made a choice to do what you're doing, right? I want you to suffer because you are serving me. I want you to suffer because you're following my word, because people are getting irritated with it, because people don't want to hear it, because you're convicting people, that's why. And then if you suffer in that, take glory in that fact when they make fun of you at work, right? When they ridicule you at school, when they do whatever, take glory in that, because you are part of my shame and my suffering. And when I get raised up, you're going to be raised up, right? We can't go around the problems. I mean, I think that we do a great dishonor to our kids, to ourselves, when we try to get out of everything that we do, right? God's given us that. So as we move forward right here, okay. So what does he say? He says, intercede for me. And then you get down to verse 29. And Moses said, indeed, I'm going out from you. I will entreat the Lord. This is Exodus 8 and verse 29. I will entreat the Lord that the swarm of flies may depart tomorrow from Pharaoh and his servants. But let Pharaoh not deal deceitfully anymore in not letting the people go to sacrifice the Lord. Look, Pharaoh, but I'm giving you another warning. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to God. Don't say you're going to do this and then not do it, because that's your history, right? And when God looks at us, what does he see our history as? Are we following through with what we tell him we're going to do? A lot, I mean, sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. Or are we just making these things and I'm in a problem and I want to get out of it. So I say, God, I promise you I'll do this and I won't do this again. I never really think that through, right? He's saying, don't do that. Don't lie to God. Stop doing that. What we talk about when we talk about vows? Talking about it's better not to vow than to vow and not follow through, right? Because you are responsible for that. God would rather you just say, look, God, I'm not going to follow you. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Wouldn't you rather your kids, if I don't want my kids to lie to me and say, oh, I'm out here doing this and I'm doing great and then I find out they're not. I'd rather you just tell me I'm having a problem, man, and I'm not going through, I need help or I need whatever. I'm not going to follow you. I'd rather you tell me the truth. And God, why? He knows the truth anyway. There's no need to lie to him about it and to try to make deals in back ways. And it says, so Moses went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord. The Lord did according to the word of Moses. Okay, he removed the flies. And it says, but Pharaoh hardened his heart. At this time also, neither would he let the people go. We knew that was coming, right? So the next thing that I want to talk about, and this is what's on the board right here, faithfulness, right? Why am I talking about faithfulness in this? And how faithful has God been to Moses? How faithful has he been to Moses? Moses continually comes, right? Even when we get back at the start of this, Moses came and said, I can't do this, God. I can't follow. I can't serve. I can't go. And he's like, well, what if I make this concession for you? What if I do this for you? And what if I, allow your brother to be a speaker for you? And just keeps being faithful to him, right? And as he goes along, how many times is he going to come to God and say, okay, will you stop this plague that's going on with Pharaoh? Will you shut down the lice? Will you shut down the frogs? Will you shut down the flies? Will you shut down and will you do that for me? And God says, you know what, Moses, because you're a servant of mine, I'm going to be faithful to you, even though I know the outcome of it. I'm going to honor you because you're being a servant of mine and you're being faithful to me, right? And so I started thinking about that. What about in our lives? How faithful is God in our lives? I want you to, because is anybody, and I've asked and I've said it to me, and I guess I need this as much as anybody, but does anybody feel like you're in the middle of something that is it's just tough, man? And I'm just having a hard time with it. And I just don't understand it. And God, why am I having to go through this? And the Lord saying, look, man, I'm faithful to you now. And I want to read, and I need this. I need this in my life because I need to remember, and we need to remember how faithful God has been to us, right? How easy is it to forget that when I'm in the middle of my trial, when I'm in the middle of this thing I'm going through, it's easy to forget. God, you've forgotten me. You've left me out here. You've just, Where are you, God? Right? And have we ever asked that? You might be asking it right now. God, where are you at? And I'm asking you, I'm calling out to you. I'm trying to do what you have me to do. And I can't find you. Right? And I want to read here. And this is something that, and over here in Hebrews, and you can look up, excuse me. Look up here in Hebrews. Okay. And we're going to look at verse 8. And we've all heard this before. Look that up. It says, Jesus Christ, and I'm going to read it, then we're going to talk about it. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Do not be carried about with various and strange doctrines. For it is good that the heart be established by grace, not with foods which have not profited those who have been occupied with them. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Who is the one of our salvation? Who is the one that is the finisher of our faith? Jesus Christ, right? Who is the one that got me through all that junk in the past? Can you think back in your past? Can you think of what you've been delivered by? It's easy when I'm sitting here and I'm going through the trial right now and I'm just doing what I'm doing. And I'm like, this is all I can see is right now, man. I'm right in this funnel and I'm right, all I can see right here. But if you think back in your life, has God ever brought you out of anything before? Has he delivered you before? And he's delivered you in times that may be harder than times right now, but I just can't see it. It says God is the same yesterday, which is back in the day when I was out there doing all the stuff that I did. I wasn't even serving. I wasn't loving. I had no concern for Christ at all. He brought me through even back then. He was faithful to me then. He delivered me in the trial back then. And it says he's the same yesterday. He's the same today. What is today? Today is the time I'm going through the trial right now. God, you're the same today as you were yesterday. When I was in the middle of that junk yesterday that you brought me through, I'm in the middle of that junk today. You can bring me through it just like you did yesterday. I'm telling you, focusing on who God is never changing, right? God is consistent. If you ever want to talk about somebody consistent, man, God is consistent all the time, never changing. And it says, I'm the same yesterday, today, and forever. And I'm going to tell you what, Chad, when you get through this, what you're getting through right now, and I'm going to get you through this thing when you go through it again in the future, because is anybody going to be out of it as long as we are living in this world? You're going to have fiery trials. You're going to have struggles. You're going to have complications. You're going to have things that don't fall into place. I'm going to have things that don't fall into place. I'm going to have things that persecute me, that come against me, that rip me up, right? And God's saying, look, Chad, I want you to remember that when you go through it again, you look back on this today, your trial today is your testimony tomorrow. That is so good.
That's kind of like that saying, don't pray for the storm to learn how to dance in the rain.
Learn how to dance in the rain. That's right. That's exactly right. Your trial today, that thing I'm going through today, that God is going to give me victory over. God, you're going to give me victory over. I believe it by faith that you're going to give me victory. And that is the one that is going to be my testimony tomorrow, that I can look back. It tears me up that I can look back and I can say, you know what, God, that thing that I thought was the worst thing that I ever could go through, now I'm praising you for, because I'm in a different place entirely because of it. Lives are changed because of what you allowed me to go through, right? If you look at it that way, then I don't want to get around the circumstance. I don't want to get around the discipline. I want to go through it and see what God's going to do with it, right? And it says, as you go down a little bit further, it says, because Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever, because he's the same, do not be carried away or carried about with various and strange doctrines. What does that mean? What does that mean? Because he is the same yesterday, today, and forever, don't be carried about with strange doctrines.
Like things that they say about him.
Say it
False
again.
things that they're saying about him.
False things that they're saying about him.
Don't try something different. Just keep.
Right. What is when I'm in the middle of my stuff, whatever my stuff might be, which is quite a bit of stuff, right? I'm continually going through something different. What is the devil sitting on this shoulder telling me?
There's something better over here.
Dude, listen, man, you need to jump ship on that Christianity stuff,
Yeah.
that following the Lord stuff. You see, that's not getting you anywhere.
Look where it got you.
Look where it got you. You're right in the middle of it. You're serving, you're doing, and here you are, right? And where is God right now, right? You need to.
The enemy get you is in your mind.
The only place the enemy can get you is in your mind.
And you know, Chad, we've talked about many, many times how when you are trying to do the right things and live the right life and pull closer to Christ, that's when the enemy fights you so much more and so much harder. And so when you are, you know, you feel like, God, I'm doing everything that I know to do. I'm praying, I'm reading my Bible, I'm serving, I'm doing all that I know to do. But my battles are harder now than they've ever been.
Right.
So that's when Satan really wants to whisper in your ear and say, look what all you're doing for God, and look what, you know, your life's worse now than it was before.
Yep.
I would say so that.
All right.
Because when my thoughts have gotten.
I've been waiting to say this verse, and that was a perfect segue into the Bible app. Opened it up, and the verse that they on the Bible app was, and let us not be weary in well doing,
Yes.
for in due season we shall reap if we faint
Yes.
not.
That's right.
In other words, we don't give up.
Right.
We don't give up. Might get tired, might get weary, but we don't give up.
Exactly.
We don't stop, right? That's exactly right.
When you have all those thoughts that just keep going and you know they're negative, I say, Satan, get behind me, I bind you in the name of Jesus. And I will say that as many times as
Oh, yeah.
whatever thoughts come into my head.
Resist the devil and he will
Jesus
flee.
is stronger.
Jesus.
What is inside of me is stronger than what is outside of me. The spirit in me is stronger than the devil on the outside of me. And that's why when Satan attacks me, and this Sharon read this, that when Satan attacks me, he doesn't attack me looking at my strength. He attacks me looking at what's inside of me. So when he hammers me and really hammers me, because he sees what strength is inside of me. He sees the strength of Christ, not what I can do. If I could tap into that strength and believe that strength inside of me is what Satan sees and fights against,
Yeah, he
Then-
looks at any doubts.
yeah, I mean, he doesn't. And so look up here and it says, so because of that, don't be carried about with all the new world stuff, right? The gospel's the same. Christ is the same. He's not changing in your life just because circumstances are changing. He's going to deliver you now, just like he delivered you then, just like he's going to deliver you tomorrow. So if you look up here in verse 5, Hebrews 13:5, so you don't be weary and you don't do all that stuff. It says, let your conduct, right? Let the things that I do be without covetousness. Now, what is that? What is that? Let me read this. I'm supposed to read the whole verse and then talk about it. Let your conduct be without covetousness. Be content with such things as you have. For he himself has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper. I will not fear. What can man do to me? The faithfulness of God. It says, let your conduct, which is what? What is my conduct? The things that I'm doing, the things that I'm involved in, the things that I'm doing. And it says, be without covetousness. What is covetousness? Covet. I covet something.
Oh, envy.
Envy, man. Look, I'm telling you what, if only I had a little bit more money, if only I had a little bit better family support, if only I had a little bit better health, if only I had a little bit better job, right? Then I wouldn't have such a struggle that I'm having right now. And God's saying, look, Chad, I've got you exactly where I want you to be. There is no better place for you than right where you're at. Don't covet what somebody else has. Because I'm telling you, that one that has more money is miserable, right? The one that you think their marriage is perfect and not having trouble has a marriage that's falling apart. The one that tells you their kids are doing okay, their kids are not doing okay, right? You may have seasons where you are, but I'm telling you, in general, everybody we are all train wrecks, just getting ready to come off the track, man. I'm just telling you that's where we're at, right? We are just one turn away from it. And I don't know if I said this last week or not, if somebody said this to me this week, but this lady told me, she said that she's like what am I trying to say? She's in the social services. She gives out the benefits and deals with people coming. And they have a saying in there that says, you know, you better watch out because you never know when you're going to be on the other side of the desk.
Amen.
Tell me that's not the truth. I'm doing great. I'm okay. It is one step away from you could never tell me that I would never do this. I would never do that. Don't tell me that. You better check where you're at, right? And that's what it's saying. Don't be covetous. Be content with such things you have. Lord, yeah, I'm having a hard time. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's not easy, but I'm telling you what, Lord, you've got me right where you want me to be. You're providing what I need. I'm going to grow and learn in this situation that I'm in, and I'm going to be content in it. Is that hard to do? When you have the world telling you, man, you need a new truck, you need a new house, you need a new job, you need a new wife. Right?
She'll get you right back. I was gonna say nobody else would have. One job.
I know. I'd have to have two if I lost Sharon. There's no doubt about that. Be content with such things you have, for he himself has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. I am with you right in the middle of where you're at. And I'm not going anywhere. As much as the devil tells us he's leaving and he's left you and you can't find him, man, he is right there beside me. And it says, so we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper. I will not fear. What can man do to me? Man, you can come against me, right? You can tear me up, but I'm telling you what, my faith is not in man. My faith is not in things or circumstances or people. My faith is in the Lord, and the Lord is strong. The Lord is the same. The Lord is going to be always with me, and I'm not going to fear man. You speak that, and what does the devil say? Oh yeah? Well, I'm gonna put it on you then, and I'm gonna see what you think about that. And I can't tell you how many every week I've got to deal with the devil attacking me. You want to teach that? You're going to have to go through that, and that's tough. But that is where your faith meets the road, right? The rubber meets the road is what they say. Okay, so that is God's faithfulness right there. You can look at Philippians, and we'll look at Philippians 1:6. I don't think I had that on the board. No. So let's look over there, Philippians 1:6, and we'll read that. This says, Philippians 1:6 says, being confident of this very thing, okay, that he who has begun a good work in you, right, will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. What does that say? That God, you are not leaving me. You've started this thing in me. You've saved me. And you're going to complete this thing until the day that you come back. And I'm going to trust and I'm going to believe that you're going to be there with me and you're going to take me through it. And that's all there is to it. I mean, there is no other way to do it. You jump ship right in the middle of it. You know, I'll tell you this story. We're out there on the bike trail, right? Last 2 weekends ago. Okay. So we're cruising around, riding mountain bike, Sharon, you know, her heart gets high and we got to stop. And, you know, I worry about that anyway, but so we're out there riding bikes. So we get down and we're on the Orange Trail. We're cruising on this Orange Trail, which is the relatively easy trail. So we're like, well, we've been down there and done it a few times. So we get to the bottom of this thing. We're like, let's cross over the road right here. And we're going to try and just see where this trail goes, right? So we get on this other side of the road. We're cruising around. We're into the Blue and Orange Trail. I'm like, well, the blue is a little bit rougher, right? And it's a little bit harder. And I'm like, we're all right, man. So we get in this, we're about 10, 12 miles in. It'll be fun. Right? Yeah, it'll be fun. So we're on this blue orange trail and we're doing pretty good. No, it was blue and orange. So we're cruising, we're good, man. We're good. We're 10, 12 miles in. We're doing okay. That's about as long as we bike for, right? So next thing I know, we must have taken a wrong turn. We're on the red trail. Red, I mean, painted on the trees, man. Red. This mug is like this, and I'm looking back, I'm like, oh my goodness, we're in the middle of the woods, don't know where we're at. I'm stopping, waiting on Sharon. I'm like, are you okay? We're all right. Let's keep going. So we get we're about 14 or 15 miles, and we're like, you know what, man? I don't know where we're at. I don't know how far we have to go. I don't have a clue anything about it, right? So I said to Sharon, I said, you know what? We should probably turn around because we're getting deeper and deeper into the woods. I don't know where we're going. This thing's like this, man. And she's like, well, I think we can make it a little bit further. Let's just keep on going just a little bit further. And I'm like, okay, we'll go a little bit further, then we'll see, right? So probably, I'm telling you, 1/4 mile, no doubt. We pop up and there is the park that we started at. The parking lot is right there where we started at, right? So we're like, oh my goodness, really, man? So we buzz in there. And what does this say? It says that, look, the Lord is going to finish what he started, right? Right in the middle of this mug, I could have said at mile 15, when I had 15.5 miles to go, or 15.5 miles total, look, Sharon, let's turn around because this is tough and I don't know where it ends. And we may be right at that 15-mile mark that the Lord's saying, look, Chad, I'm going to finish this thing and you are closer than you know on that you are just about to be through this storm that you're in. And I'm just about to deliver you. Don't turn around now. Don't stop. Don't quit. Keep on going because I am there with you. And the next thing you know, you turn around that corner and all of a sudden it's like, okay, Lord, you've shown me, you've delivered me, you've given me what I need. And I'm back at square. I'm back to where you want me to be. Right. I mean, that's a lesson learned. And if we had turned around and had to go, we would have gone 30 miles.
Yeah.
Didn't listen to me. Yeah. Okay.
Where two or more.
The white is on
Yeah,
the right.
that's right. That's right.
And it just did one.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the, how faithful has God been to us? He's been very faithful, man. Don't turn around now. He's the same. He has the best for us. So moving forward, okay, so we're going to get into this and then we're going to talk about this next. Merciful. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a second. So the fifth plague, what do we know about the fifth plague? Where does it happen? Probably don't remember. The palace, right? That's the fifth plague, in the palace. The message is the same, correct? Let the people go that they may serve me. That's the same message he's done the whole time, right? What do we know about Pharaoh's heart? It's still hard, right? He's not wanting to do what God has told him to do. So the Lord said to Moses, go into Pharaoh, tell him, thus says the Lord God of Hebrews. You know, Moses has to be at this point like, Lord, really? How long are we going to go on with this? You know, am I going to, probably like you are in this study, man, how long are we going to go on with this? Are we ever going to get out of this thing, man? Are we ever going to, listen, we're halfway through, right? We're halfway through. It's already been a year. I'm waiting for Tammy to give me my certificate of completion. That's what she gives me at the end of, yeah, Tammy's waiting to give it to me. Anyway, it says, the Lord said, go into Pharaoh, tell him, thus says the Lord God of Hebrews, let my people go that they may serve me. For if you refuse to let them go and still hold them, behold, the hand of the Lord will be on your cattle, in the field, on the horses, on the donkeys, on the camels, on the oxen, and on the sheep, a very severe pestilence. And then he says, and the Lord will make a difference between the livestock of Israel, the livestock of Egypt, so nothing shall die of all that belongs to the children of Israel. So what is going on here? You've had all these 4 plagues before, right? And what have they dealt with? They had the lice, you had the frogs, right? You had the blood, you had the flies. These are more, and I was just saying, these are more like irritants, aren't they? Like aggravations. Now, do they drive you crazy? Having a bunch of frogs bleeping all night and doing whatever drive you crazy, or having all the lice, or having that drives you crazy. But really, the result of that is what? Is there a big result on that? You know, it's just an irritant. It's just driving you crazy. It's just superficial stuff, right? The Lord has told him, look, stop, or I'm going to give you another plague. And he says, so now this is the first plague that he's going to do what? It's going to be on a scale that is a personal property type of thing, right? What is the cattle? What is all the sheep, and what do they consider back then? It's a monetary thing. That's their money, right? Now you're coming, and the Lord's saying to me, he said, look, Chad, I'm giving you these irritants in your life, you know, trying to get you, I'm giving you these little pricks, trying to get you to change and trying to get you to, you know, do something different and trying to get you on the right page. You're not really listening to me. So now I'm going to attack your finances, right? Now I'm going to attack something that's personal with you, right? As this gets a little bit further, he says, well, now I'm going to attack your health, right? And then it gets a little further. He says, now I'm going to take out your children, right? And the Lord is continually just kind of up in the ante on that thing, telling them, you know, hey, you need to get this thing right. But the thing that I want to talk about is that why at this point is he giving Pharaoh another chance? Why is he giving Pharaoh another chance, man? How merciful is God? How merciful that he says, look, this is going to happen tomorrow. So I'm going to give you today, and I'm going to let you think about this thing, and you tell me what you think about that. How merciful is God? How merciful is God in our life? What is mercy? What does mercy mean? Anybody? Grace. Unmerited favor, which means that God does not give me what? Does not give me what I deserve, right? He should have said, you know, we talked about murder last week, right? That's what the pastor talked about. He said, look, people say, oh, God's a murderer. And God, you know, God kills people. And God has given chance after chance after chance after chance after chance and said, look, this is what I'm going to do. I don't want to do it. But this is right. God is not a murderer, right? God is faithful. God is just. Yeah, I mean, he's merciful. That's what he is, right? And I want to just think. So how merciful are we? That's a question I want you to think about. Do we expect God to give me mercy? When I screw something up, do I want God to give me mercy? And don't give me, Lord, I know that I messed this thing up, but I want you to just forgive me and let's move forward and everything will be okay. Right? That's what I expect God. So when somebody in our life does the same thing, how merciful are we to them? And I want you to think about that. God is merciful to me. God loves me. God doesn't give me what I deserve. God gives me a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth chance. Right? And then how do I do when somebody comes against me and does something I don't like? And I think they should be punished for it. Am I merciful? I want to read this. Let's go over here to Matthew, whatever that says up there. This is Matthew 18. Okay. And then I need you to, I don't know who this is for, could be for me, but I need you to hear this about mercy. Right? Which is mercy is what? Really forgiveness. Right? How forgiving. Mercy is not getting what I should get. Forgiveness. I'm not giving you what you deserve. Right? Forgiveness. Right? Do we have a hard time with that? Probably so. And I want you to read this because this is for somebody. It says the parable of the unforgiving servant. So this is Matthew 18, verse 21. I know we've heard it before. We're going to read it again. Then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me? And I forgive him up to 7 times, which 7 times is a long time, right? Yeah. And it said, Jesus said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. Let me read this and then we'll talk about it. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. When he had begun to settle his accounts, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents, but he was not able to pay it. And his master commanded that he be sold with his wife and children and all that he had, and that the payment be made. The servant therefore fell down before him, saying, Master, have patience with me, I will pay you all. Then the master of that servant was moved with compassion, released him, and forgave him his debt. Okay? But that servant, the same servant that was just released and forgiven his debt, went out and found one of his servants. This is a servant, right? Who owed him 100 denarii. He laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, pay me what you owe me. His fellow servant did the same thing that he just did, fell down at his feet, begged him, saying, have patience with me, I'll pay you all. He would not, but went out and threw him into the prison till he should pay the debt. Okay? And then it says, when his fellow servants saw what he had done, they were very grieved, and there came and told the master all that had been done. His master, after he called him, said to him, you wicked servant, I forgave you all the debt because you begged me. Should you not also have had compassion on your fellow servant, just as I had pity on you? And his master was angry and delivered him to the torturers until he should pay all that was due to him. So first off, how much did that first servant owe? The first servant that went to the master. I got my thing, $10 million. This is something that he could not pay back in a lifetime. This is a debt that was unpayable. Where do we put that in with us? What is a debt that's unpayable to me? I can't pay for anything to get my salvation. I can't pay that debt off, right? That can only be done by one person. $10 million. He goes to him. The master says, you know what, man? I'm going to forgive you of that debt. He says, okay, great. He goes out. His buddy there, his servant, owes about $12,000, which is very payable, right? He grabs that mug by the throat and says, you know what, man, I'm throwing you in here and I'm not listening to you, and does not give the same mercy that he was given. And I just wonder, when do we figure out, when do we start to give mercy? That's the question. When do I start to give forgiveness? I got to realize one thing first. What do I have to realize first? You got to realize your forgiveness. You got to realize what? The state that I'm in. Until I realize, and this is for all of us, until we realize the amount that I've been forgiven, until I realize the extent of mercy that was granted to me, I will never understand to forgive that one that is whoever in my life. Right? And that's what he's saying right there. He's saying, look, you don't realize the amount that you were forgiven. You don't realize your condition. And now you're going to go out and you're going to hammer somebody else. Do we not do the same thing? I'm forgiven over and over and over and over. And then somebody sins against me. does something against me, irritates me, does whatever, and I say, you know what, man? And I run my mouth about them. I don't forgive them. I make their life misery. I want you to know what you've done to me. I'm gonna put you through the ringer on this thing. And the Lord's looking at us going, Chad, man, remove that plank that is in your eye. Remove the log out of your eye so that you can see the speck that's in your brother's eye. Remove that you see what you have been forgiven so that you can forgive somebody else, right? God has been so merciful to us. I can't tell you, and I don't know why I don't know why we cannot forgive. Why can't we forgive? Why do we have such a hard time with that?
People think it's,
We haven't forgiven ourselves.
Maybe because we haven't forgiven ourselves.
people assume it means it's a free pass, or that someone's getting away with something.
Assume that it's a free pass. We want justice, pride,
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
right? And I say for me, it's pride. That's me. And I think it's all these things, but pride that, man, you're not going to get one over on me. You're going to pay me what you owe me, and I'm going to stand here and you're not going to make me look bad, and God's saying, look, man, you forgive and forgive and forgive and forgive. Does that mean that we let people walk on us? Is that what that means? That I let people know I put things in place so that you can't do the same sin against me that you did the first time, right? If I'm lending you money, or if I'm giving you a tool, or if I'm doing and you don't give it back and you don't pay it back, then I'll tell you what, man, I'm going to forgive you of that, but I'm not going to lend you money next time, right? Or I'm not going to give you that tool next time, or I'm not going to, whatever that case is, but it doesn't mean that you don't forgive them, right? We have such a hard time. Yes.
Forgive and forget. I mean, you should really forget and just move on.
Forgive and forget.
It's a hard thing for people to do. Or say you stepped on my toe. I'm always gonna remember that Chad stepped on my toe that one time. And if I brought that up every time that I saw you, we wouldn't have a relationship.
And people do that.
Yeah.
We do it. Tell me, and then you can go, Veronica. But tell me in our families, right? Tell me in our families that I'm not willing to forgive my kids. Okay, and I'm holding that grudge and I'm holding that on you, and you did this, and I'm gonna move past it, but I'm never gonna let you live that down. Or you do that with your wife or your husband. I'm gonna hold on to that thing, and every time that we get in an argument, or every time I'm gonna bring that thing back up. Right, Melanie?
Exactly.
How does that do in your marriage? How does that do in your kids' lives? How does that do it Melody's laughing, so that's the only reason I did that. No. Right? But how is that? Right? Go ahead, Veron. What'd you have to say? You remember?
I was just gonna kind of regard what she said, which is true. I think sometimes, I'm sure it's hard for all of us that whole forgive and forget thing. Forgiving, yes, absolutely. I think that once you forgive something difficult, I think everything else after that just becomes a little bit easier. Not easier, just easier. Forget. I don't know. I think sometimes the remembering
Sure.
will just keep that fine line there. Like, I forgive you, but I'm
Yeah,
not.
you got to keep your
Yeah,
boundaries.
you gotta keep
Right.
your boundaries.
I mean, you got to keep your boundaries. Right?
And what if a woman is raped? Is she
Right.
going to forget that?
Right.
Right,
No,
right.
Yep.
but she will, with God's help, be able to forgive
Which
and never forget.
and how do you, I mean, that's it. It's only by God's grace that you can, that we can forgive it all. I mean, it doesn't, whatever that is, that's only by God's grace.
But I think your question was that, how do you forgive? How do you, and that's only through prayer and, and realizing what you've been forgiven of. The thing is, if you don't forgive, the
Oh, man.
consequences of that are so damaging and destructive.
Yeah.
It will literally, I have seen so many people that I've talked with that had something traumatic happen that someone had done to them, but they just couldn't forgive. They just couldn't let go of it. They could, but they wouldn't.
Yep.
So And I've watched it literally destroy people, just literally eat them from the
Oh,
inside
yeah.
like a cancer.
Yeah.
So yes, so many times I've said to people, you've got to forgive them for you. It's not for them.
That's right, yeah.
It's not about them. It's what you have to do for you.
And I really think that speaking that. Yeah. Right? Does that make sense? That you're speaking that?
Yeah, so in the Lord's Prayer, it says, forgive us our sins as we forgive others, and it sounds like a punishment, but it is not. It is, God knows us that we cannot grow in his grace and mercy and love if we don't forgive.
That's right.
It hurts only us, so God is saying, this is for your good.
Oh, yeah. And the measure that you forgive, I'm gonna forgive you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all there is. And that's spoken forgiveness, right? Then I can forgive in my heart, right? Maybe, and I can do, but you go to that person and you tell them, look, whether you want to hear it or not, whether you think you did anything or not, I forgive you for this thing. Right? And I'm putting that out there, and then you do it's not up to me how you receive forgiveness. Right? It's not up to me on whether you accept it or whether you don't, or whether you say, slam the door in my face and say, I don't want to hear it, man. That isn't, we need to forgive. I mean, that's it. Go ahead, Sharon.
And like Pam mentioned, there were some pretty horrific and
Oh,
unforgivable
gosh.
situations that are out there, but for me personally, I also remember that vengeance is of the Lord, and that may sound horrible, but it makes that forgiveness, like, you know what? I'm forgiving for me, and the Lord's gonna take care of this, like, regardless, and I have seen it over and over.
Oh, man,
When
yeah.
I have forgiven, and then it's like when Mordecai was, in the presence of his enemies, he was paraded down, and the very bad thing that he was trying to do to others was done to him.
Yep.
And you're like, you know what, the Lord's gonna take care of this, and I don't need to be the.
And I've even prayed in there, which is not right, man, but Lord, I forgive him, but I pray that you would take care of him. And I'm telling you the truth, man. I mean, vengeance, I've prayed it, man. Vengeance is yours, Lord. It's not mine. I'm not gonna retaliate, but I'm praying that you do. That you teach him a lesson, right? Where it used to be, I'd teach him a lesson, but now you teach him a lesson. I don't want to be in that, right? I don't want to be part of that. Yes.
I think one of the things that.
Hold on, man. I got my timer going on.
We, tend to struggle we have with ranking our sin.
Yeah, ranking that. Oh, absolutely.
And understanding our sin versus the sin of someone else against us, and come to terms with that, and the humility that you have to get to a healthy place, but all that is a tough journey sometimes.
Big time.
I'd also ask you, who put that in your mind? Who put that anger in what? If you ask yourself, hey, did God give me this heart of vengeance? And the answer
Right.
is no. So if you have it and you have that bitterness, and we all know that God would put it in our heart, who did it come from? So who are you listening to?
Right. That's right. That's a good point. So I really, let me read this verse and then we'll talk about it next. We'll pick back up next week, okay? Sorry that we don't get too far. But
You reset the whole clock to 12 a.m.
I just tried, I threw it down over there. All right. So let's go to Hebrews, and I'm just going to read this. We're not going to talk about it. And then you look at it next week, and then you see these other verses on here. You check those out. And we'll talk about them next week. But it says in Hebrews 4:14, and this is talking about God's mercy. Okay. Seeing then we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest, and I want you to hear this. We do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weakness, but was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore, because of the fact that he was tempted, because of the fact that he knows what we went through, let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need. That's that. And I can't talk about it. We'll talk about it next week. God is the one that's been through it. He is the one that gives the mercy that we need. He is the one that allows us to be merciful to other people because of the mercy that he has extended to us. Do not put your pride above God's forgiveness and God's mercy. And that I'm good enough to get it, but you're not. Because I'm telling you what, then you talk about vengeance is going to be on you, right? Then the Lord's going to have to deal with your heart. and deal with what's going on in your life. So that's it. Let's pray and then we'll end. But I really want you to think about that this week. God's faithfulness and his mercy in our life, man. I mean, he has been so good to us. And I just struggle with a lot of things, and we're just working through that together, man. I mean, we're working through it together.
Chad, I feel like, one thing real quick, I feel like unforgiveness, it just binds you up.
Yeah,
And when
fine.
you don't forgive somebody, and I mean, I'm speaking in a big term on this, is a family, a father. But it will bind you up and it will keep you from moving on to the salvation that God has for your life.
Is an expression, if you don't forgive, it's like you drinking poison and expecting them to get sick.
That's the truth. I mean, really. You're like stabbing myself in the neck and then thinking you're gonna die.
Right.
That's stupid, man. Yeah, that's stupid. Well, whatever, man. You know how, that's just my mind. All right, let's pray. Let's pray. And then move forward. Sorry about that. I don't know where that came from. I digress. All right, let's pray. Father, we do thank you for this time. Lord, I'm so thankful for this class. I'm thankful for what you've done for us and for me personally and for us as a class. And Lord, the faithfulness that you've shown us and the mercy that you've given us and the way that you love us. And God, I just am so thankful, Lord. I do pray that you would help us this week to see ourselves for who we are, that we could understand that if you've forgiven me of all that stuff and that you've been merciful to me, that I can extend that to somebody else, even when they don't deserve it. Because I didn't deserve it, Lord, and I don't deserve it, Lord. And I just pray that you would help us with that. That would grow us so much, Lord. We do thank you. We love you. We praise you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Great job.